Davis Alden is a blood-sucking capitalist piece of shit who hates our environment.
Yeah, I'd believe it. Welcome to the Rendezvous podcast. You're here today with Davis, Carter, and Zach. And, before we get into what I did yesterday, or what I got called out doing yesterday, Carter, you tell us a little bit about your day.
My day?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. What was yesterday? Wednesday?
Your fucking birthday, yes.
Ah, damn. All right. Yeah, I turned 21 yesterday. So now it's completely legal for me, Zach, and Davis to all talk about drinking on the podcast.
Poor Jasic.
We'll pour one out for Jasic at the bar when we get back to Sheridan.
Yeah.
But, yeah, yesterday's pretty cool. Went and got lunch at the Crow Bar here in Laramie. Ordered some beers. Felt good. Went to the DMV, got my new license. Went to Denver. And me and my buddies went and saw this rapper. His name's Schoolboy Q. The concert was supposed to be like over Thanksgiving week, but it got postponed because, you know, Wyoming, or God hates Wyoming, and the weather's always shitty and the roads are closed. But yeah, went to the concert and we got to meet the dude afterwards. Met Schoolboy Q. That was pretty nutty.
What'd he say?
Yeah, we walked into this room that he's in, right? It was after the concert. We were like the 5th people in the meet and greet line. And we walk into this little room, and the first 4 people in front of us were just like in and out. They went and took a picture with that dude, and they were out of there. And Robert, Dylan, and I walk into this room, and as soon as he sees our faces come through the door, he's like, this is all quotes, guys, so don't go hating on the white guy here. But he's like, oh, shit. Oh, shit. And he starts like body checking us and jumping and pushing us around. And it was the craziest moment of my life. And I didn't really know what to do. And then he goes, quote, these guys, my white niggas, dude. I said it, my white niggas. That's right. And he was just so hyped up about it. It was the funniest thing. I had no idea what was going on. Wow. Just wow. What an adrenaline rush. Got back to Laramie about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I went to bed. Got up for class this morning.
What a great birthday.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I wasn't like fucked up, but it was still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
Yesterday also happened to be the day that Time Magazine released their Person of the Year, and it was Greta Thunberg. And so, naturally, I took to Twitter and
as it should be,
and kind of made, a joke, just a joke, about how a 16-year-old that skips school should probably not be the Person of the Year, and got called out by a couple people that we went to school with. Well, more Zach and Carter went to school with than I did, and called out. So naturally, we invited them on the podcast to, talk about it, debate us, just have an adult discussion. And so another formal invitation right now. Olivia and Becca,
yeah,
come join us.
Yeah, join us on the podcast. We'll all be back in town over Christmas break, so if y'all want to hop on,
we'd love to have you.
Yeah, we got nothing against debating things with people.
Yeah, this isn't a gotcha sort of thing. I mean, you want to come on and talk with us. That's all it is. I wouldn't even call it a debate. I would just call it a conversation. You just come and we'll talk about it.
I mean, that's what the Rendezvous is, conversations.
I mean, Davis's tweet wasn't necessarily like saying climate change wasn't a real thing. It was more just joking about Greta Thunberg. Thunberg?
It's right there.
Thunberg?
Okay. Thunberg.
Whatever. I don't think that a 16-year-old should be deemed Time's Person of the Year when all she's really done is lead protests or rallies about climate change. She's not educated enough to the point where she actually knows what she's talking about when it comes to everything that goes into climate change. And I feel like there's other people in the world that probably could get the title of person of the year that have like had a greater impact on this year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus
So we'll get into those people a little bit later in the podcast.
yeah. I'm just okay. Yeah.
You got anything else on your rant?
No.
Okay, so Zach, do you want me to kind of start this off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So first off, Olivia and Becca, if you're gonna call me out on Twitter, please come on the podcast. Let's have a conversation. Love to have you. Okay, Greta
And you get a
Thunberg.
free T-shirt.
Free, yeah.
Well, not for us, but I mean, you come on the podcast, you get a free T-shirt from us.
I think you need to stop advertising that because we're gonna go broke.
No,
Okay. Well,
we haven't had that many guests. Anyway, onward.
onward.
Oh, wait, hang on. Before you get going, I made a promise to somebody. I don't know his name, but he gave us a shout out, so we gotta give him one back. This is to the YO Snaps guy. This episode's for you. Thanks for giving us a shout out on Snapchat. I have no idea
Wyo Snaps
if
guy.
we
Follow
if we
Wild
got
Snaps.
any new listeners, but yeah. Okay, take it.
Wild Snaps is great Snapchat. Follow it.
God bless America. That's all I gotta say about that one. It's got everything you want on it. Some alcohol, mountain scenery, boobies, weed occasionally, dead animals.
Okay, moving on. Jesus, this is a serious episode. Come on. Okay, so Greta Thunberg. Back in 2018, back in September of 2018, she started skipping school right before the elections in her home country of Sweden. Right, Zach? Sweden? That's where she's
Yeah,
from.
yes, yeah, she's Swedish.
Yeah. Okay. So she's skipping school like 3 weeks before the elections in her home country of Sweden, and she stands outside of the parliament in Sweden to basically protest that they aren't doing enough for climate change and whatnot, and that they aren't doing enough to help the environment, and they're not. She was basically doing it so they would become part of the Paris climate accords and join that fully. I guess I don't know if they ever did. I forgot to look that up. But and so from that point on, she got pretty famous as a climate activist, whatever that means. And I mean, I don't want to hate on her because she's 16. She's got Asperger's, and for what she knows, she's actually doing not too bad of a job. And her thoughts and heart are in the right place. I just don't think I'm with Carter. She shouldn't be the Time Person of the Year. So let's talk about her for a little bit. She's basically stated 4 main themes. She's gone all over the world and talked at climate strikes and whatnot. And so she's had a bunch of speeches. Her 4 main themes are that humanity is facing an existential crisis due to climate change. The current generation of adults is responsible for climate change. Climate change will have a disproportionate effect on young people, and too little is being done about the situation. She has also stated that politicians and decision makers need to listen to the scientists. And along with that, she is also saying that basically the Paris Agreement isn't enough, and she wants she went to a conference at the European Economic and Social Committee committee and said that the EU should reduce their CO2 emissions by 80% by 2030, which is double the 40% goal that Paris set. And so she's just like, an 80% reduction in emissions is unrealistic. It just is.
Well, it's totally unrealistic, especially with how fast the population grows nowadays. But I mean, she says that climate change is because of the generation of adults that we have right now, right?
Yeah.
This is what gets me because, like, climate change is not completely due to just humans. I mean, yeah, there's some fucked up things that we do on this planet, and like we do emit a lot of CO2 into the atmosphere, which can't be good for it, obviously, but the Earth is going to naturally change anyway. It's not like we're solely killing the planet just because we need to produce things so like we can live. Like we need factories, we need food, we need water.
So basically, the way I look at the science, it breaks down like this. The Earth's climate is not a static environment. It is dynamic, and it has been since the beginning of time. It is always changing and always will be changing. And there's nothing we can do to stop that. If the Earth's climate is going to increase the temperature, it's going to increase the temperature. If it wants to throw us into an ice age, it'll throw us into an ice age. And there's nothing we can do with it. Second, one forest fire in California, if you take all of the California forest fires in the last 3 to 4 years, that put out way more CO2 than humans have in all of human history.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
We put out CO2, but one grouping of forest fires in one state, not even including the forest fires in the Amazon.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well,
Zach, go ahead.
You should point out too, her biggest gripe is with the United States. Everybody points fingers at the United States. And so when she got really famous a couple months ago, I think that was in Paris, she pointed fingers at the United States. The United States has cut our global emissions so much more than every other industrialized country in the world. China is like the number one worst country of putting out CO2 emissions.
Well, that's why Trump pulled out of the Paris Agreement.
Right. If nobody else is keeping up their end of the deal.
China wasn't in there, so there is no point in us reducing our emissions if China is going to put out tenfold what our emissions are, because it won't matter.
Right. Which is just another reason why I don't think she should be Person of the Year. Why is she only calling out the United States when we across the board?
That's not necessarily true. And I'll get to that here in a little bit. She's called, well, I'll just say that right now. Her and 15 other people. Let me find it. Oh, where are you? Okay, yeah. So her and then 15 other children got together, and the group announced they had made an official complaint against 5 nations that are not on track to meet the emission reduction targets they committed to at the Paris Agreement. Those countries are Argentina, Brazil, France, Germany, and Turkey. The complaint challenges these 5 countries under third optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of a Child. So basically, they're suing them because they're violating their rights as children and putting them in a bad place to live in the future or something like that.
Yeah, give me a break, little girl. You just got named Time Person of the Year. Your life isn't that bad.
Well, and then we'll get to her probably most famous quote, where she's at
"How dare you?"
The "How dare you" quote. And so I'll set the scene. She's at the UN Climate Change Council or whatever in New York City or whatever. And she says, she's talking to all these world leaders, and she says, "This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean." Yes, you should, little girl. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. You are people are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? And
Can you name me one person who has died from fucking climate change? I'm sorry. You're going to get up there and you're going to shake your little finger at me and tell me that people are dying? Who's died? Who's died from this? Who?
No, people are
what
dying.
ecosystems
People
are
dying.
collapsing? Which ones? Tell me, please. I beg you. Tell me.
Reefs actually, the only ecosystem that is taking a major hit from increase in CO2 in the atmosphere are coral reefs, because coral's made of basically bicarbonate, which is HCO3.
Okay.
And
CO3 bicarbonate.
Yeah, HCO3.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so when you increase the levels of CO2 in the atmosphere, it basically changes the pH of the ocean to where the coral reef breaks down to balance out the pH, because it's acting as more or less a buffer in the ocean to keep the pH from shooting up a whole bunch.
Okay.
So as the pH increases, due to the CO2, the coral reefs start to disintegrate.
All right. Well, there you go. So you've pointed something out. My point is, she hasn't pointed anything out. All right. She just gets up there and shakes her finger. You in 2 seconds have told me what's going on.
Well, I mean, people in the world are dying from hunger and like starvation, dehydration, just like poor living conditions in general.
That doesn't seem like climate change to me, though.
Yeah, no, like if you want to solve a real world problem, you got to start thinking about other countries' currency going down the toilet, other people's in other countries starving and dying of dehydration or contracting diseases, Like, I feel like the earth has its own built-in like mechanism to fight back at whatever's coming, Like the reefs, they're disintegrating to balance the pH, because if they don't, then the ocean becomes too acidic, all the ocean life dies.
Well, the ocean life can die when the reefs go away, because it's habitat.
Yeah, for some things, yes, I know. But I mean,
so there's a ecologist that used to work at the University of Wyoming, and I can't remember what his name is, but I've gone to listen to him talk. He wrote a book about the ecosystems of Wyoming, and the best thing he ever said was, when you put one thing into the environment or change one thing, take one thing out in the environment, you're not only changing one thing, it's going to have a chain effect. So coral reefs leave, that's going to ruin habitat for some fish or aquatic creatures, which is going to affect
predators,
more predators down the line and down the line and down the line. So it's not just reefs leaving; it's a larger effect than that, but it's still not like entirely man-made or entirely that big of an issue yet. And the main thing with all the problems in the world, over hunger, poverty, climate change, you can fix all of that by reducing population. This earth is I'm dead serious. This earth can only support so many people. At some point, the problem is not climate change or coal production or anything. It's the number of people on this earth
that need to use everything.
That is the main issue. You fix that, and 90% of the problems go away. How you fix that? There's no way to fix that. There just isn't.
You just start drowning babies like they do in China?
Well,
no, we have to eat the babies.
What happens is a natural cycle. It's what happened with the plague. when you get overpopulated, disease spreads easily.
That's true.
When the deer population gets overpopulated, they get blue tongue and half of them die off. We're going to a plague. That's what's going to happen. In the next 100 years, there's going to be a plague. You heard it here first. Not a doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
I don't think you're wrong.
And so, I mean, I don't want to entirely bag on Greta because she is doing a few things good, kind of. So she's reducing her own carbon footprint herself. She became vegan, so I guess not eating meat is supposed to reduce carbon because cows fart, but we all fart, so I don't know.
Is she just never gonna fart again, or what? Like,
Well,
Bottle it and throw it in the ocean.
More vegans equals less cows, which equals less farts because cow farts are killing this planet.
seems.
So if you eat meat, how dare you?
How dare you? I said.
And so she's also done upcycling and she's given up flying. And she convinced her family to give up flying, including her mom, who was like an international opera singer. So her mom had to give up her career because if you can't fly somewhere, you can't like be an international opera singer. So, but I want to make this point, and this is where I'm going to bring in the math. Flying long distance has less carbon impact than driving.
Yeah.
And I did the math today to prove it. So, running through some numbers here. The average passenger car burns about or releases 0.906 pounds of CO2 into the atmosphere for every mile it drives. From New York to LA, that's 2,776 miles, which ends up being about, if you were to drive from New York to LA in the with the least distant road, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fastest
It ended
route.
up being about 2,515 pounds of CO2 per car. Now, the average airplane burns 53 pounds of CO2 per air mile from New York to LA by air. So the way the bird flies is 2,451 miles. That's 129,903 pounds of CO2 emissions in one flight. Now, that is way more than any car. But per passenger, it's a lot less. Because, so I got on to Delta Airlines to see what kind of airplane they use to fly New York to LA. And they use the Boeing 7067, which seats about 180 to 375 people. So if you're thinking, the average passenger car, you fit 3 people into a passenger car to take that drive. So you take the low end number, 180 divided by 3. You get about 60 cars that are going to be driving New York to LA. And that times that 60 times 2,515 ends up being 150,900 pounds of CO2 emission. And, basically the average between 180 and 375 people is about 260. And so even if you divided that 260 by and fit 4 people into a car, that's about 65 cars. So still more CO2 emissions than flying. If you're going to fly a lot, and, bigger planes, that's a lot easier to prove. If you're flying a private jet across the country, yes, that is worse than driving.
Yeah.
But if you're not gonna go on a commercial plane because you think that's killing the environment, it's not. Driving the distance, if it's a long distance, more than likely is worse on the environment.
I agree. My thing with Greta here is like, I think she has great intentions and like her head's in the right place, and she's not entirely wrong when she says that like we're gonna deplete our planet and we're the cause of climate change. Like she's not entirely wrong. But where I get lost with this whole Time Person of the Year thing is that it sounds like she's only doing things to reduce her own carbon footprint, and she's leading these rallies, and like everybody's like, yeah, Greta, like shake your finger at all the nasty people that ruin our planet.
So
But she's not making any changes other than herself.
she's trying to lead by example and by giving up flying. So obviously, you have to get from Sweden to the United States somehow without flying. So coming over, she took a 60-foot racing yacht that was equipped with solar panels and underwater turbines. And so the trip was basically carbon neutral. Didn't put off any carbon. Going back after she did a whole big North American tour in United States and Canada, and then ended up taking a 48-foot catamaran back to Spain, because that's where the next big climate thing was. So she's trying to lead by example. My biggest problem is she's basically been quoted as taking a sabbatical year off from high school. Like, what is that? If she wants to actually be a climate activist, and I think she has the heart and the mindset to do it, the way she's talked and the way she gives speeches, go to school, learn as much as you can, become the next PhD or the next politician that's the leading climate change person. Be well versed in the science. Don't just listen to the scientists. They can be wrong. They've been wrong before. Figure it out for yourself. Learn the science yourself. And then be the leading climate activist. Don't know nothing about the science and then be, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think that goes for anything and for everyone. If you
100%.
go figure it out and make your own decisions. Here's my thing. So her mom and dad are both like internationally known. One's an artist, I think the other's an actor, maybe. They're pushing her to do this. I don't think that this is her choice completely. I think they've pushed this on her. And
I
you can
think
see
they did
this
at the beginning, but I think now it's her.
I don't know. I think they keep going with it. And you see that the media's taking her on. The media's keeps pushing her, keeps putting her in the spotlight. And when they're done with her, they're just gonna throw her away. I mean, look at David Hogg, the kid from Florida who was pro gun control. When's the last time you heard anything from him? As soon as the media is done with you, they throw you aside, and because either you haven't advanced your cause well enough for them to keep going, or their agenda's changed.
Or
So
some new kid comes into the picture
right.
protesting something else.
Right, which just kind of goes back to your point, Davis. If she's hoping to change the world on her, fame alone, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You're either going to divide more people because everybody has an opinion about you, or the media is going to throw you aside and we're going to forget about you within a day.
And I would argue that it's not the climate change issue that stole her childhood. If you're speaking truth, it's her parents and the media that stole her childhood.
I mean, think this girl's 16 years old. Be a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Get a driver's license. Hang out with your friends. Like, why are you trying to make this grand tour around the whole world?
Well, and if you're that worried about the world going to end in 12 years like AOC is, we aren't going to stop it from ending in 12 years. Nothing we do, if AOC is telling the truth, nothing we do will change the fact that the world is going to end in 12 years. So live it up. Go be a kid. Go be a kid. Enjoy life. Go enjoy nature while you still have it.
And people might disagree with this point, but I've seen it. the media and these people are fear mongering, to be honest. AOC is fear mongering, going out preaching the world's going to end in 12 years. You have this Greta Thunberg who's going around saying we've destroyed her childhood. When I was working in a school last year, they were learning about the environment and all this kind of stuff. And I pulled this kid out in the hall to do some reading. He comes up to me, and I swear to God, I'm not making this up. He goes, "Mr. Gale, I'm worried." I was like, "Well, why are you worried? What are you worried about?" It's like, "Well, people are destroying the climate, and the oceans are flooding, and if we don't do something soon, the oceans are going to rise, and we're going to all drown." And I was like, this kid's like 6th grade, and his teachers got him all worried because, oh God, the climate's going to end in 12 years. This is the effect. It's go be a kid. I was like, you don't need to worry about that, dude.
Well, and I don't think people realize that the ice caps are not going to completely melt. Do you know how thick Antarctica is of ice before you hit land?
Yeah.
2 miles.
Yeah.
2+ miles of ice. That is not all going to melt in 12 years.
I couldn't find my source for this, but the ice caps are actually growing. They're growing. They're not shrinking. I wish I could have found my source before I was doing this, but they're growing. The ice caps are actually bigger than thicker, bigger than they were. They're growing.
I mean, I feel like the Earth's always gonna go through this cycle of like ice caps melting. They're gonna refreeze and grow, get bigger. Like it's not gonna. I don't know. I just think I'm with Davis. If you think the world's actually gonna end in 12 years and we're all gonna be a mile underneath water because all the ice caps melt and the atmosphere disappears and we all just like scorch and the world is hell, you're crazy. That is crazy to think about. There's this lady that came in and talked to my microbiology class the other day, and she wasn't necessarily touching on climate change, but she brought up something that I thought was kind of cool. That like you ever been hiking up in the mountains and you see the red snow, the watermelon snow, like high up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bacteria.
Yeah, it's bacteria. And so they live near the top layer of the snow in these little water pockets to kind of like shield themselves from the sun, but at the same time they need the sun. But these bacteria, since they turn the snow red, the snow absorbs more of the sun's light rays instead of just the white snow reflecting it off, right? So these bacteria are kind of like naturally just melting, like assisting, I guess, the melting of the snow and then growing more bacteria, which then makes the snow melt more. So, I mean, like, there's things all over nature that cause snow and ice to melt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't know that, like, I didn't know the red snow actually did that. It kind of blew
I
me
told
away.
you that on our backpacking trip this summer.
You did?
Yeah.
I remember talking about the snow. I didn't remember.
Oh my God.
Well, I knew it was bacteria. I'm just saying I don't remember the whole sun melt bacteria grow process.
In Carter's defense, you guys had a wild weekend up there on the mountain.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, it was a wild weekend.
So
There were some things that were ingested that could explain some memory loss.
Too much whiskey.
yeah, bourbon, Jim
Bourbon.
Beam, peach bourbon, baby.
Bourbon and whiskey. There was a bottle broken on a rock.
Okay.
I fell over Davis.
So this comes from one of Greta's first speeches, Zach, and I want to get your opinion on it because, in my opinion, it's basically inciting violence. This is a quote from one of her first speeches. So everyone out there, it is now time for civil disobedience. It is time to rebel. End of quote. Why? What is the point? And this is one thing I tweeted today back to one of my haters out there. So what good does civil disobedience or rebelling have to do with changing the environment?
What are they going to do?
A protest accomplishes absolutely nothing. All a protest does is get you on the news and puts the awareness out there. Go actually do something to help the environment.
What kind of civil disobedience or rebellion are they going to create?
Go
Are they going to storm the White House and hold Trump at gunpoint and say fix the climate? Like what the
Go
I mean,
clean an ecosystem. Go pick up litter. Don't protest. Go do something.
right. I mean, are they protesting political action, or are they protesting the fact that nobody's going out and, trying to change the climate, or,
They're
fix the earth?
protesting policy, basically.
So, I mean, it could have some sort of effect. I mean, I don't know how it changes anything for climate change, but civil rights era, civil disobedience and protesting got them somewhere. I mean, but I agree with you. I mean, she wins Time Person of the Year for riling people up, not for. I mean, okay, we've noted that she's changed some of her own policies or some of her own tendencies, but I mean, and I don't know. There's more deserving people out there than a girl going around shaking her fist.
And that's a good segue. So you looked up someone who, in terms of climate change, has done way more than she has in 2 years.
Yeah. So there's this guy. He's Dutch. Boyan Slat. Hope I'm pronouncing that right.
That's 2 words. Boyan first name, Slat the last name. Look him up.
Right. It's spelled exactly how it sounds. So when he was 18, this is about, well, I don't know how long ago. When he was 18, he built this contraption that, uses the natural oceanic forces to passively catch and concentrate ocean plastic through which the theoretical cleanup time could be reduced from millennia to mere years. So this guy has a thing out, and I think it's between California and Hawaii right now. It's somewhere in the middle of the Pacific.
Yeah, he's targeting that big landmass of plastic that circulates in the ocean based on the currents.
Okay.
It's just you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah, like trash island.
Plastic.
Yeah.
That's what he's targeting right now.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that was in 2013 when that happened. Maybe not. Maybe it was just recently. But
he got the idea in 2013 and started getting money and donors in like 2016, 2015.
Okay, yeah, it says here 2018 was when it personally took off into the ocean.
He to date he's raised like $34 million for this project.
Right.
So if you're a listener and you aren't a poor college student, look him up and maybe donate if you want.
Right. And so I think where you would donate, because he started his own company too. It's called The Ocean Cleanup. So look that up. But yeah, I mean, this is a guy who in a year has done, I don't know what effect he's had, but that's a pretty ingenious system that's out there doing something.
But why is he not the Time Person of the Year?
Because he's not calling out Donald Trump.
Because it's not public. Because the news isn't raving about it.
Because he's taking it upon himself to go and do something. He's not traveling around the world. He's not calling people out, and he's not a media puppet.
And he's not the only one. I didn't have a whole lot of time today because I'm trying to study for finals, and I was looking up stuff about Greta Thunberg. But if you Google climate change young entrepreneurs, there's plenty of them. Plenty that are inventing stuff, trying their best, using science to try to clean up this planet and make things better for the climate. But they don't call out anybody, so they don't ever make the news.
Well, here's the thing, though, is because you have all these scientists around the world that are constant, the climate changing has been a topic for I don't know, 70s, 80s, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
since the
back-
70s.
it started in the 70s, basically,
Yeah.
with the Crying Indian commercial.
Yeah. So you've had scientists working around the clock since the 70s to prevent or reduce climate change. It's not like nobody gives a shit about the world and nobody's doing anything. These guys are actually in the lab, they're studying things, they're doing math, science to try to figure out what to do. They're trying to come up with the solution before they present it to the world. You can't just tell the world, hey guys, you need to get your shit together because it's going to end in 12 years with no solution already. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, and the world and climate is multitudes better off now than it was back in the 70s and 80s.
Oh yeah.
Multitudes.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yeah. Did you know that there's more trees planted right now than there were around the time of the Industrial Revolution? I don't know if that's in the world or if it's just the United States, but there are more trees planted now than there were during that time. Like, there are people doing things. This is not. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, it's not the climate change isn't something that you solve overnight. That's the gist of it. This is something that takes years and years and years and years of research to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think her waving her fingers and doing all these protests and rallies and stuff. I don't think she deserved Time Person of the Year.
Well, and basically, we got to look at it this way. If you're going to reduce carbon emissions, you have to get rid of coal. You have to get rid of natural gas. If you drive any car that drives with gas, how dare you? If you use the air conditioning in the summer, how dare you? If you use the heater in the winter, how dare you? And you know what? Solar and wind is great. It is so inefficient with the technology we have right now. Sure, 20 years down the road, it might be way efficient. It might be able to take over coal and natural gas.
Yeah.
But as of right now, if you truly wanted to reduce CO2 emissions by 80%, we'd have to start living in the Stone Age again.
Seriously.
The time before electricity. So if Greta Thunberg uses anything electrical, of which she does because she posts on Twitter, how dare you? How dare you? You're using electricity. That's coming from somewhere, and that comes only from mostly coal in this world. Sure, there are solar plants and wind farms, but that is minor to what is produced from natural gas.
Yep.
Well, and the other thing too is like solar power and wind farms, water plants. Those are expensive as hell. It's
They're
not
inefficient.
Yeah, it's not cheap to go lay out millions of solar panels to power something. Like, that stuff costs a lot of money. And back to real world problems like hunger and poverty, not everybody can afford to deck their house out in solar panels to be CO2 free and blah blah blah.
Well, and you know, good on Greta because she is changing her carbon footprint a little bit. I would have been so pissed off if it had been one of the Hollywood bigwigs that say we're killing the planet, and then they jump in their private jet, fly half across the world, and go to their 5th fucking house that has air conditioning and 5-car garage. How dare they? How dare they tell me to reduce my carbon footprint when they're living in Hollywood and they keep their house at a cozy 65 degrees? Stupid. Zach, you there? So what? Okay, crisis averted. Moment of technical difficulty there, ladies and gentlemen. So what point did you get kicked off? Did you hear me ranting about the Hollywood elites?
No.
Okay, so basically I went on a rant about how the Hollywood elites, fly their plane all over and then
Okay, like Leonardo
we need to
DiCaprio and
reduce
shit.
our carbon footprint, and then they go to their nice, cozy 65-degree homes in Hollywood.
Yeah.
5-car garage. Fuck them. So, yeah. So should we just do final thoughts since your internet is acting up?
Yeah.
Okay, final thoughts. Here we go.
All right. Well, I think it's a shame what the media and leftists have done to this poor girl who already has a mental disability. Um, Call me out on that if you want. I don't care. The point is, she's not at the same state of mind as the rest of us. And to take advantage of her like this, I think, is unfair. To name her Person of the Year when she's shook her fist more than she's taken action or inspired people to take action, I think is a little maybe premature, especially when you have thousands of people in Hong Kong protesting government oppression and really looking at violence and just really shitty situation there. And then you have somebody like this boy. Oh shit! What Boyrin?
Boy and Slant.
Boy and Slat.
Slat.
Slat. Yeah. My apologies, dude. Who out there taking the initiative and doing something. So anyway, again, Olivia, Becca, you guys are welcome on this show. We'd love to have you on to have a conversation. It's not a gotcha. It's not a 4 guys railing on you about what you believe. It's just a conversation. We just want to know what you guys think about it. So love to have you guys on the show. When you guys are home for Christmas, hit us up.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to emphasize, I guess, that the take-home point from this episode is not that we're hating on Greta Thunberg. I mean, or her disability for that matter. Like, I respect her as a person. I think she's doing cool things for how old she is. But at the same time, you should just go be a kid. You should go out and live life and stop worrying about adult problems that are being forced on you and the media is just feeding it to you. You know what I'm saying? You should go have fun, enjoy your life, get an education, get a degree, and then start worrying about how you're going to solve the world's problems. So, yeah. And Olivia and Becca, we appreciate your guys' feedback on Twitter, but we prefer if you'd come on the show and talk. I mean, we got nothing against it. We're all for it here. So, yeah. Come join us and let's have a discussion about climate change and Time Person of the Year.
So, personally, I think Greta's childhood is gone. There's no way to be a normal child after this. So I really hope she succeeds, and I hope she makes the best out of this opportunity. Because of who she is, she's going to have an incredible opportunity to get into some amazing environmental colleges. She could be one of the leading scientists in the world by the time she's 30, or she could be a leading politician in the world by the time she's 30.
Yeah.
The choice is up to her. I really hope she goes back to school, because right now it's almost seeming like she's not going to go back to school. I really hope she goes back to school. I'd rather her be a climate activist as a scientist or a politician than as someone who's not all educated, you know?
Well, I feel like if she doesn't go back to school, when the media is done with her and throws her out, she'll just be a nobody.
Yeah.
People are going to remember, oh, you remember that one 16-year-old like 10 years ago that went on those rants about climate change? I wonder whatever happened to her. I feel like if she goes and gets an education and some credibility behind her, her words will move a lot more people and make a bigger impact than what she's doing right now.
Yeah. So, and then Olivia and Becca. Olivia's comment basically threw me under the bus and said I am a hypocrite because I have a outdoors podcast and am an outdoors enthusiast. But yeah, because I don't support Greta, I must not care all that much about the environment, which is really funny because the night before I spent 3 hours in a Wyoming Game and Fish meeting talking about chronic wasting disease in the state of Wyoming. And that's an entire episode all by itself. But basically, for all of you guys that like to hunt and fish in Wyoming, but mostly hunt, the Game and Fish put out a draft plan to combat chronic wasting disease and basically manage it throughout the state. And they're looking for public input. And you have to, I think, like January 15th of 2020 to read through their draft plan. And it's a little bit long, not too bad though. And then provide public comments. They want to hear what you like about the plan, what you don't like about the plan, if you think the plan needs to add something, or if you think something shouldn't be in the plan. They really want public feedback on this. One, because they can't really do some of the stuff they're doing if the public isn't bought in. And so please, if you hunt deer or elk or even moose in the state of Wyoming, please go on to the Wyoming Game and Fish website and read through their draft plan and make a public comment. I will be after finals week. I don't have time this week, but next week or the week after. I hate the environment, but I will do my public duty and try to make a well-educated public comment. If there's anything else I could do to help the environment, since I hate it so much, please let me know. So next time on the Rendezvous, we'll see you later.